Rashee Rice was officially suspended for the first 6 games of the season, and that's one of many reasons why the Chiefs won't win the AFC West this season. We'll break it down on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso, with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the data queen, Michelle Majuk. On today's episode, we're going to take a look at a trade that sends Adam Thielen back home to the Minnesota Vikings. We'll talk about Kyle Hamilton getting a historic safety deal and one that he very much deserves. But we'll start with the big news out of Kansas City on Wednesday that Rashee Rice will be suspended for 6 games. He's going to start that suspension at the beginning of the season. He has accepted it. Doesn't sound like there's going to be an appeal or anything like that. So now we know Rashee Rice out 6 games. Michelle, there was some debate on whether this suspension would actually kick in during the middle of the season, whether he would actually play the first month. But I think if you're Kansas City, you would rather just go ahead and knock this out of the way early in the season so you can build towards your best self later in the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the case. You would want it to just get knocked out, and then you could just focus on the playoff run at the end of the year. I will say, though, the start of their schedule is really hard, and it would have been really nice to have Rashee Rice there, right? In the middle of their schedule, it gets a little bit easier. But it goes Chargers, Eagles, easy game in week 3 against the Giants, but then Ravens, Jaguars, Lions. So those are the 6 games he's going to miss. And those are a lot of offenses are going to have to try to keep up with, some really good defenses in there as well. And right now with Rashee Rice suspended for the first 6 games, I mean, the starters are Xavier Worthy. Cool. I like him. First round pick last year. He's a fine starter. But then Hollywood Brown, he's lost it. I mean, I don't think there's much left in that tank. He did barely anything for this team last year. And then Nico Remigio is a projected slot wide receiver starter for this team. I know he had some exciting returns last year, right? But as an undrafted rookie last year, the dude had 6 targets all season long. By the way, he only caught 2 of those targets for 48 yards. Like, to just have to hope that he can step it up, an undrafted guy who's was not used in that role at all last year. It seems crazy, and I just don't think they've done enough across their whole roster. And I think the other teams in the division are starting to step it up.
Yeah, I think that while the Chiefs will probably still make a playoff run, and having Rashee Rice back by the end of the season will allow them to be whatever the best version of themselves is by the end of the year. How good that version is or what that can win is a different topic. But I think the schedule that you talk about is pretty hard. I think it may be a struggle with a rookie left tackle who Josh Simmons has been impressive early on, but still a rookie left tackle. I think that this Chiefs team personally comes out and maybe struggles early on with a little bit of the Super Bowl hangover, a tough schedule, and missing some guys. I'm actually going to say, Michelle, and I know that you're kind of on this train with me. I do not think that the Chiefs win the AFC West this year. I think having that Super Bowl hangover, having a tougher schedule, dealing with some of this uncertainty at wide receiver, I think there's just too many factors going the opposite way for the Chiefs. I'll have them making the playoffs, but it'll be as a wild card. I do not think they win the West this year.
And I'm not trying to be contrarian, right? Like, I haven't been saying this about the Chiefs every year and been wrong. Like, this is the first year I really feel like the other teams in the division can really push for it. And I'm sorry, for the Chiefs to win the division again this year, they're going to have to, make it won't be history because the Patriots did it 11 straight years from 2009 to 2019, but they would become the second team to ever win, 10 straight defensive or divisional titles. So it is going to be that's not an easy thing to do whatsoever. No. And also a lot of their games last year, I know they finished 15-2 and that looks amazing, but how many games
Come
did they get
on.
so lucky winning? And you're like,
Right.
come on. Like everything that needed to go their way went their way. They had 4 wins by fewer than 3 points last year. So 1 to 2 points. That's tied for the second most wins by fewer than 3 points in a season in NFL history. They've also won each of their last 17 one possession games. That's the longest winning streak in one possession games in NFL history by 4. Sooner or later, not everything can bounce their way. Like, I get it. They're a really good team. They have an amazing quarterback. They have an amazing head coach. And that means that you're going to make better decisions late in games and win those close games. But this luck that they've been having, I'm sorry, it is a lot of luck.
Yeah, at some point there's going to be some regression. So just natural regression on some of these close score outcomes. Add that to the list of reasons that's piling up of why I think that the Chiefs won't win the West. And the question becomes, who wins it instead? And I'll tell you, Michelle, I was on the Chargers for quite some time. And literally the moment that I said the Chargers were going to win the AFC West, all heck broke loose. Rashawn Slater's hurt. Mike Williams retires. All this different stuff. So I just feel a little bad juju there. So I'm switching. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. And honestly, I think both the Broncos and Chargers are good enough to get it done. It's not like I'm just, flipping over. Like, they're both really good teams who made the playoffs last year. But the Broncos continuity, trust in Sean Payton. I think they have an incredible roster, and they look really sharp here after kind of a bad first preseason game. But the Sutton-Knicks connection seems to be on fire. I just see a lot of positives from Denver, who also, they have a good offensive line, and I think that matters quite a bit. So I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos winning the West.
I don't mind it, right? I think a lot has to come down to Bo Nix. Is he really the real deal, or did he just have, a lucky rookie year? But I think with Sean Payton, he's going to be fine. It's if he can take that next step forward, right? Because it was very much a system quarterback last year, very low yards per attempt. Can they take that next step forward? But their defense should be so good. They don't actually need Bo Nix to do a whole lot. Now, I'm going to stick with the Chargers. I know the Rashawn Slater injury is terrible blow to the team, but I think they've done so much this offseason that gets me excited. Like, just in general, Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman being there for the second year is huge, and Jesse Minter, like the whole coaching staff being there for the second year. But then also they were already the number 1 defense in points per game allowed last year. They lost a couple pieces, but nothing like earth shattering. I know some people would be like, well, Joey Bosa's a huge miss. Is he really? The dude never plays. Like, I don't think he's a big loss. And on offense, I think what they did this year cannot go understated. I love what they did with the wide receiver room. I love both guys they drafted in Trey Harris, their second round pick. And then Keandre Lambert-Smith has been getting a ton of buzz and
he's been awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I think adding Keenan Allen is going so under the radar. I mean, just 1 year removed, this guy led the league in receptions per game and was 4th in receiving yards per game. He put up over 1,200 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns in 13 games played in 2023. Like, he was Justin Herbert's man, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that just went away. He was still completely fine with the Bears last year. The Bears just stunk. He still had 7 touchdowns, right? They had the second year in Ladd McConkey, so they have that connection. Such a big thing with Justin Herbert last year was, who's he going to throw to? They took away all of his weapons. He has to build this connection. Well, he built it with some of these younger guys, and now he gets back Keenan Allen. They bring in running backs that are like at least a really good, I think a really big upgrade to J.K. Dobbins and to Gus Edwards. Marion Hampton, just a better rusher overall, but then also like he has the receiving chops, and Najee Harris has the receiving chops. That's what J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards were both missing last year. And I even like the addition of Tyler Conklin there at tight end, a better receiving tight end. So I think this offense has the chance to be a top 5 offense this year, and their defense was already good last year. I'm really excited about this team.
You're trying to talk me back into it. You're trying to talk me for Chargers fans' sake. I'll stay with the Broncos on this one because, last time I showed the Chargers love, again, everything went downhill pretty quickly. So I won't do that to them again. I'll take the Broncos. You take the Chargers. But the big takeaway ultimately is we both think the Chiefs have a lot going against them, and it may be tough for them to win the division once more. But with that being said, a team that I don't think it's going to be that tough for them to win the division is the Baltimore Ravens. And one of the reasons is they have one of the best safeties that I've ever seen. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. I mean, it starts on Saturday. So whether you got your eye on a big-name quarterback or a breakout running back, Prize Picks makes it easy to get into the game. For this weekend, Prize Picks is offering major max discounts. You can go with max discount number 1, Avery Johnson max discount. Just has to do more than half passing yards. So literally 1 passing yard, and you win. Dak Prescott, you could do for the Thursday night game opening against Philly. Literally has to have 1 passing yard, and you're going to go more than half a passing yard, and you win on Prize Picks. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Michelle, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the Rashee Rice suspension and why it's one of the many reasons that Michelle and I don't have the Chiefs winning the AFC West this year, although we disagree on who will win it. It'll be fun to monitor that throughout the year. But do want to move to the second biggest story in the NFL on Wednesday, and that is the massive record-setting deal for Kyle Hamilton. And I'll throw it to my guy Kevin Allstreicher from Locked On Ravens to break down the news.
The Baltimore Ravens with some fireworks here on Wednesday. I'm Kevin Allstreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. Kyle Hamilton officially in Baltimore for the long haul. 4-year, $100.4 million extension with the Ravens with $82 million guaranteed. This absolutely resets the center market. The highest paid average annual value deal was Kirby Joseph in Detroit at around $21 million. Hamilton gets 25, and this is extremely well-deserved for Hamilton. A do-it-all player, can play anywhere on the field, and honestly, one of the heartbeats, if not the heartbeat, of that Ravens defense. This was an extension that Eric DeCosta, the Ravens general manager, had hoped to get done. Now, there are others that are on the docket for him, including still Lamar Jackson, Tyler Linderbaum, etc. But getting Hamilton in Baltimore and having him stay long-term is an absolute win for the Ravens. One of the best defensive players in football, the best safety in football. There is now no doubt about it. Kyle Hamilton is a Raven long-term. Big deal for the Ravens, and there is still a lot of other moves that are happening as waivers are about to drop at the time I'm recording this, and there's a lot happening. So be sure you check out the Locked On Ravens podcast and subscribe on YouTube for all your Ravens updates.
I mean, this is well-deserved. $25 million. Again, Kirby Joseph got a deal for 21 point something. This is a massive leap for the safety market. I know that everybody talks about resetting the market, but I just think Kyle Hamilton is such a special and unique player because of his size, his versatility. Honestly, even if there are good safeties, I still don't think like the next best safety is guaranteed to get more than Kyle Hamilton because his skill set is unique enough where I don't think you can just argue I'm the next best safety, I get paid more. Like, no, you don't do what Kyle Hamilton does. Michelle's so excited about Kyle Hamilton, she could barely get her words out.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's $4 million more per year than, like you mentioned, the next was Kirby Joseph. It's a massive, but when you're looking at this list of the top paid safeties, it's really underwhelming. It's Kyle Hamilton, Kirby Joseph, Antoine Winfield Jr., who's solid, and Derwin James, but really right now, safeties in the NFL are not this exciting group. It's hard to like really pick out these all-star players, and Kyle Hamilton is clearly the leader at his position. I just remember him coming out of school and how much, he was looked at as just this pristine prospect, right after the college season. And then all of a sudden during draft season, he was just getting torn apart for whatever reason. All of a sudden, people were saying he's going to fall in drafts and he's too slow to be a great safety. And at that moment, because I'm a Steelers fan, I knew he was going to fall to the Baltimore Ravens. Yep. I just knew it. And that's exactly what he did. Fell to the 14th overall pick. There was no reason for that whatsoever. He's performed exactly how he's supposed to in the NFL because he was so good in college. And guess what? He's so good in the NFL. And he can do it all. He can rush the passer. He can play in coverage. He can play all over the field. He truly is a very, very special player.
No, 100%. He's near and dear to my heart personally. I mean, I'm not going to act like I was a good football player. I was a scrub at the end of the day, if you want to be honest, in the grand scheme of things. But I loved playing that versatile safety role for the team, being able to come down in the box and hit somebody, but you're good enough to be in the back end and make plays and kind of move around the formation. That's always what made me most excited when I got to do stuff like that for the team. So seeing a guy like Kyle Hamilton, who is not a scrub, 100%, and is like just doing all the stuff that I think is so cool versatilely on defense. He's one of my favorite players in the entire NFL. And you're right. It's one of those things where we get so close to the draft and people kind of forget you need good football players. Positional value, this and that, blah, blah, blah. You might as well take an edge or how about you take the guy who's the better football player? And quite honestly, we look towards this draft with the college football season about to start. Caleb Downs is going to be another guy like that who's just absolutely easily one of the best players in the country. And then we get to the draft, we're going to be like, well, he's a safety. We can't take him here. And then 3 years from there, it's going to be like, wow, Caleb Downs is so good. How did he fall in the draft? It's just like it constantly repeats. But looking at the Ravens as an overall team, this offseason, $100 million extension with Kyle Hamilton, $30 million extension with Derrick Henry, $60 million extension with Ronnie Stanley, basically a $40 million extension with Rashad Bateman. Lamar Jackson could potentially get an extension. Tyler Lindenbaum, their super talented center, still needing an extension as well. And there's some conversation out there they might not be able to bring him back. If you're the Ravens, you have so much money going out right now, it's going to be hard to maintain things. Do you think that they've done enough this offseason and have enough to get over the hump this year? Because if they don't, all of this money problems could come crashing down and even hurt a team like Kansas City, who's very good at managing the money as well.
I don't know, because you bring up the Derrick Henry, payment and the Ronnie Stanley. Those are both aging guys, right?
Yes,
and it's a lot of the same old. I know they add like DeAndre Hopkins in the offense. That's an old aging player. Like, I don't think that's going to change anything. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to have a good record. It just comes down to if they can can they get over their own issues, their own self? Yeah. Like, they're losing playoff games because of stupid things that they do with either Zay Flowers fumble or Mark Andrews can't catch a ball right in his hands for the 2-point conversion to tie the game up. It is interesting, though, to see the top of their schedule. Now, they're going to be right in it with any team, right? There's no game they go into where you're like, the Ravens can't win this game. But
right.
Week 1 against the Bills, Week 2 against the Browns, which they should easily be able to handle, but it is a divisional game. Week 3 against the Lions, Week 4 against the Chiefs, Week 5 against the Texans, who I do think will be really good this year, and Week 6 against the Rams, who I think will be really good this year. Ooh. Interesting first, 5 the first 6 weeks are some tough games for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, and I got to be honest with you. I just feel like when there's some sort of and you even go back 2 years ago, think about the Zay Flowers, like you mentioned, knocking the ball out of his hands right at the goal line with Jerry Steen. Like, this is just insane. There's like a mental block for the Ravens. And with the improvement of the teams out west that we talked about that we liked, the Chiefs still being around and having that kind of big brother over the Ravens. And then I personally, little spoiler for next week's shows, I think the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl this year. I think that Josh Allen, he got his individual thing with the MVP. Buffalo's done it. They're so solid, so confirmed that I'll be honest with you. I don't even think I'm going to have the Ravens in the AFC Championship game this year. I think they missed their window last year. They let themselves down. And I think we're going to start to see maybe a downturn for the Lamar Jackson Baltimore Ravens. They might have to reinvent themselves here in the next 2 years with new stars and new players that we don't recognize who are younger. And maybe that twilight part of Lamar Jackson's career, they can finally build up enough team around him. But I don't think it's this year.
I know. It's so crazy they couldn't get there last year with like how good of an offense they had. How hard it was to stop Derrick Henry and how on fire Lamar Jackson was and just this offense in general. And you could say, well, it's the same team. It's hard to replicate these things, right? Even after Lamar's massive year in 2019, I mean, his numbers fell down for a couple years before going right back up. Like it can come down a bit. Derrick Henry could finally hit father time, right? One time. But Also, maybe his touchdowns come down a little bit, or maybe they just don't get as lucky on certain plays. But their defense, by the time they hit the playoffs, were really great too, right? They had their struggles to start the year, but were great by the time they hit the playoffs, and they still couldn't get over the hump. So I don't see what changes here. And of course, anytime you make the playoffs, it just comes down. I really do think it just comes down to a lot of luck at that time, how healthy you are, how the ball bounces your way in the playoffs. Obviously, there's certain teams that sneak in that like are going to get bounced early, but these like elite teams, the Ravens, the Chiefs, I was going to say the Bengals, but that's not the truth. The Bills, like those elite teams, the Eagles, the 49ers on the other side, like when they make the playoffs, there's never like a time where like, well, they're going to get their butts kicked in the playoffs for sure, right? They always have a chance. It's just the Ravens have shown us over and over again that they're going to let us down.
And that's what it comes down to. Is it's not like the team isn't good enough, but I just don't know that I trust them at the end of the day to make the big play when it matters most. But with that being said, somebody who is trusted to make a big play is Adam Thielen, and no one trusts Adam Thielen more than the Minnesota Vikings, and that's why they went out and got the old man back. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue. It's so incredible I can barely say it, and then it kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. Rugiet has over 150,000 men who have already made the switch from traditional options, and I love that it's completely online. Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit Rugiet website for full safety information. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel. The app is so great to look at. It's easy to use, whether I'm making a player prop, a money line, building a same-game parlay, hitting some live betting action. FanDuel makes every game even more exciting, whether I'm watching my team or maybe just keeping an eye on my fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, it's the best way to add a little more energy to my Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Michelle, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the Chiefs' suspension of Rashee Rice, Kyle Hamilton's big deal with the Ravens, but we got a trade. We got a suspension, we got a signing, and we got a trade. We're getting about everything that we could handle from the NFL transaction-wise on Wednesday, including all the waiver claims and roster cuts and such. But we do finally get a big deal. Adam Thielen traded back to the Minnesota Vikings from the Carolina Panthers, and our folks over at the Locked On Vikings Squad Show reacted to the news.
Adam Thielen is back. A pick swap this year, a pick swap next year, and he returns to Minnesota after 2 years in Carolina.
I think that this is, obviously Vikings fans love Adam Thielen. He's a Minnesota guy, legendary to the organization. But I think this is actually going to be a great move for J.J. McCarthy. I think it's going to be nice for him to have that veteran presence that's already played in this offense before. Obviously, it's a little bit different than when Adam Thielen was here last. But I think that this is all good things, if I'm being honest, especially with we all know that this is a move that came because Jordan Addison's suspension for the first 3 games. And so they needed some depth in the wide receiver room. But I don't think anything bad is coming out of this. What is it? The Panthers get a 2026 5th round pick and 2027 4th round pick. And the Vikings get a conditional 2026 7th round pick and a 2027 5th rounder. So it's like, I don't think, we were talking earlier about whether they gave up too much or whether they didn't. I don't think that they gave up too much for this move. I think it's purely beneficial for this Vikings team and this Vikings roster. So that's my initial thoughts on the whole thing.
I get the move, but I do think that they completely overpaid for Adam Thielen. He's 35 years old. They're going to rework his deal and all that. I think that this is a panic move because they want to surround J.J. McCarthy with the best that they can because they're a little nervous about it. That's what I think. Hey, we can't afford to have him thrown out here to guys who don't know what they're doing. It's been shaky. Let's get guys that we can rely on to protect him as best as possible. I know that that's a very, negative way to look at it, but I think this is a move that shows that they're not quite certain in J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, I guess, because they did pay a lot for Adam Thielen. And I get, it's a lot of swap picks or whatever, but it's like equivalent of a 4th rounder, which is what they wanted.
And they had no freaking picks this year. They didn't have any picks because they're always doing crazy stuff with the picks. Yeah,
this is a way overpay. Like you mentioned, 35 years old, and he's still okay, but come on. And he's average has gone down because he's old. And I just think all this because Jordan Addison's going to miss 3 games and you're trading for that. I think that's kind of crazy. I know there are other guys on their roster are getting injured, but you still have the best wide receiver in the league in Justin Jefferson. You still have one of the best pass catching tight ends in TJ Hawkinson. Yep. And, Aaron Jones is getting older too, but he's still an elite receiving running back. I think they had enough to get through the first 3 weeks until Jordan Addison can be back. And then, before you can get some of these guys who've been injured, I think it's a massive overpay. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to hurt their future all too much. At the end of the day, it's a 4th round pick. It moves to 5th, whatever. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's I like the addition, but I do think that you paid too much for it. You know what I mean? I've gone to dinners before and this is a good steak, but is this, $100 better than the steak I could get at, chain restaurant or whatever? Probably not worth that money. But yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, it's a good fit. It makes sense. But who I really want to focus on is the Panthers, because I think the Panthers have done a great job with some of their moves recently. They get rid of Jonathan Mingo and get back a 4th round pick from the Cowboys. That was an absolute steal. And then doing this to get rid of Thielen when they already have a bunch of young wide receivers, and we're kind of seeing the vision for the Panthers play out here, as my guy Julian Council from Locked On Panthers said.
When we get to week 4, we get to week 6, and I'm sitting in that press conference, I will ask Dave Canales, who is this team? Who are the 2025 Carolina Panthers? Looking back at the preseason, pretty hard for me to sit here and say that we know definitively or even a little bit who this team is and what they're going to be. Some certain spots that I can feel pretty good about, some other spots I got some questions about, kind of hunches I had about this team just on paper, but with our own eyes, evaluating it, can't really say.
You can't say right now what they're going to be, but I think you can see the vision of they want to go young. They've gotten rid of all their old wide receivers at this point. They have Coker, they have Rugiet, they obviously have McMillan in there. They are going, in parentheses, Bryce young. They're going young. And I guess however many games they win or who they'll be, we will see. But I love the way that they're going about this, getting good value for older guys and getting younger around their young quarterback.
Yeah, the fact they're able to get anything for Jonathan Mingo and Adam Thielen is absolutely incredible. And they actually got value from these guys. It wasn't like they gave them away for a 7th round pick. They actually got some decent, solid value for these players. And I love that they're going young. I think this is what this team needs to do. Their defense is still, I think, decently far away from truly being a Super Bowl contender in the slightest. But Tetairoa McMillan, loved him coming out of school. He was a 1st round pick on him, right? Early 1st round pick. Xavier Legette, like you just brought up, late first round pick last year, but give him a chance to break out. But Jalen Coker last year was a surprise as an undrafted rookie. He had some really, really good games to end the year, and it seems like he has a really good connection with Bryce Young. So this will allow Jalen Coker to be on the field a lot more often as well without Adam Thielen there. I like what they're doing in Carolina.
And his fans have a hilarious name. So I'll just leave it at that since this is a family program. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Data Queen, Michelle Majuk. As we tell you every single episode, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe out there.
Bye, y'all.